serious, if you could learn the honest truth behind any rumor or mystery from the course of human history, what secret would you like to unravel? DB Cooper, the hijacker that jumped from the jet plane with all that money, and what happened from then till now. The identity of the Zodiac killer, or if the dudes who escaped Alcatraz really survived. I'd like to know which people were the pedophiles that were involved with Epstein. The Mary Celeste, I believe that's the name. It was a US merchant ship that was found completely abandoned floating in the ocean in the 1800s. I would also like to find out what happened to another ghost ship that was found with everyone frozen. Who the Isdal woman really was, what she was doing, how she ended up dead in such a remote valley in Bergen, Norway. No one has been able to identify her in 50 years. Edit. What's especially strange about this case is that she had about 8 different aliases which she used all over Europe, and then was found burned alive in the middle of a Norwegian valley. All eyewitness reports from people who crossed paths with her state that she stood out and always seemed to be on high alert. I'd like to read the history of the world volumes that were destroyed at the Library of Alexandria. Edit. Thank you guys. My dad is the one responsible for this comment because I asked him some form this when I was a kid. He's been my history teacher throughout life. I like to know about the thousands of years of undocumented human history. No idea why, but I'm just so interested in finding Genghis Khan's grave. The brutal extent they went through to keep it secret is truly messed up. The details of the Bronze Age collapse. We only know very generally what happened. Read 1177 by Eric Klein for details. But precious little specifics. Who did what and why. Droughts, famines, revolts, piracy, population movement, trade collapse etc. are all involved. Mycenae, Minoans, Troy, Hittites, Ugarites etc. Every city from Greece to the Levant was burned down and every civ collapsed. Egypt, Assyria and Babylonia didn't collapse but were severely weakened for centuries. I just want my grandma's recipes. Where are the missing Sodder children? What happened at Dyatlov Pass? And does the ivory-billed woodpecker still exist? Where the cool S originated from and why did it spread to so many places? What happened to Shelley Miscavige? She just went missing, while the Church of Scientology claims that she's working there. I don't believe it. Same people that believe in Xenu and ducking soul catchers. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. It kills me that I will die without knowing the deep dark it rich and powerful people, governments, and companies have done. We only hear about what they've gotten caught doing and there has to be so much more. And what about older wealth before there was any insight into this? What did the Rockefellers do abroad on private islands before the Epsteins existed? Also, all the technology that the Gates, Musk, and Bezos crowd get to see deep in the RAND departments. What is inside the Vatican secret archives? Where is all of the missing art the Nazis looted during World War II? More than likely. What are the hundreds of locations of the art? It isn't actually a rumor or mystery, but I'd like to learn the history behind the legend of Excalibur. If Caligula made his horse consul or if he was just messing with the senators in Rome. On a more serious note, the life of Jesus. And also, if Ptolemy was Alexander's illegitimate half-brother, because that would mean that Cleopatra would be related to Alexander. Edit. The Cleopatra in Egypt around 300 years later. Alexander's full sister was also named Cleopatra. Literally every single Unsolved Mysteries episode. Where Cleopatra's tomb is located. I would go back and see how exaggerated are the religious books of all the Abrahamic religions. I would like to see what religious figures were really like and how everybody treated them. The death of Marilyn Monroe. Was she killed? Were the Kennedys behind it? Was it drugs? Not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, but it would be really interesting to find out the truth. She was definitely gone before her time. Who was behind Cicada 3301 and what the actual purpose of it was? It just disappeared into thin air. Stonehenge. There are many theories for why it could have been built, but nothing solid. Even more unknown is how in the world those monoliths were moved and stacked. Extraterrestrial intelligence. Do they exist? Have they ever been here? How close is the nearest planet with intelligent life? Is faster than light travel possible through the distortion of space or some other means? Would having the Library of Alexandria live on actually have progressed civilization as much as we speculate it would? I adore reading about it as much as it infuriates me thinking of how much we probably lost. You never said just one. I would probably just go with Amelia Earhart, or, if this is allowed, discovering the entire ocean, as like 90% of it is unexplored. So if I could have a diagram of everything inside that would be great. Who killed John Bennett Ramsey? The Voynich manuscript. No one's mentioned Jack the Ripper. I would love to find out who he was just because it would be cool to find out what made him who he was. Like, did he have a bad childhood act? Who committed the Black Dahlia murder? What really happened in Epstein's cell and who was involved? Hopefully Maxwell will spill her gut about the nasty things that have happened. Not literally though. What happened to Madeleine McCann? There's so many opinions and speculations. A few. 1. What actually happened to the Somerton man? Who he was and what he was actually involved in. 2. What happened at the lost colony of Roanoke? 3. Which version of the Great Filter is actually true? Edit. So, I guess Stephen King left a more indelible mark on Roanoke than the actual colonists. Despite speculation, the evidence seems clear to me. Fiction paints a far more interesting picture. Dyatlov Pass incident. 9 Russian hikers died in uncertain circumstances in 1959 and it still hasn't been solved. During the night, something caused them to tear their way out of their tents and flee the campsite, all while inadequately dressed for the heavy snowfall and sub-zero temperatures. Why did they leave? What caused them to run? Did something scare them? Were they scared for their lives? So many questions. Very strange mystery and quite disturbing as well, especially with some of the conspiracies. Was Kennedy really assassinated by the CIA? This is going to be ducking depressing. My dad passed away last Wednesday. I'm extremely broken up over it. We were tremendously close throughout all of my childhood, but we had a falling out a few years ago that was largely my fault. I haven't talked to him in a year. The only thing I would want to know, did he die thinking I hated him? Did he die hating me? I love him so ducking much. Even though we had our differences, he is still the greatest man I will ever have known. I need to know. Did he know that? Did Coca-Cola really introduce and cancel New Coke just to boost sales of Coke Classic? I just need to know why NTF Easter Island even exists. Like y'all were set up on an island with basically no natural resources and y'all just decided to make these huge ass heads? Like why? I want to know about Otzi and his life. I would want to know the scientific advancements and knowledge lost with the Aztecs and other advanced Native American civilizations. Also a true depiction of their cities I'm sure would be incredible too. Why did the kamikaze pilots wear helmets? How to make Damascus steel. The real stuff that has been completely lost to history, not the stuff that just goes by its name today. It'd be nice to finally know, not just assume because we like how the modern stuff looks. Where was Jesus from the ages of 12-30 when he is not mentioned in the Bible? I want to know more about the British Columbia murders from 2019. 2 teenagers killed 3 people and caused a massive manhunt spanning 3 weeks and 3,000 kilometers before killing themselves. I think I heard they made a confessional tape, but I doubt it will ever be published. What on earth was going on in their minds? I truly want to see what happened to Amelia Earhart that long century ago. What exactly happened? How she died? And how close we were to finding her remains? Did she die in the crash? Did she survive and live on an island until her death or drown thereafter? How long was she alive? Was she somehow rescued and hid her identity afterward for whatever reason, despite that likely not being the case and is really just a lame conspiracy theory? What the hell happened to Noonan? There's a few for me. Maura Murray. Where did she go and what happened? I think it's probably that she ran into the forest and died of exposure or succumbed to the elements, but her behavior before she disappeared is bizarre. I would like Phil Lisk to be solved and to know his identity. Where are the Sodder children? What happened to them? Peter. Thought of another one. Lol. What happened to Asha Degree? Was she loud out of her home or was she coerced? Honestly, I'd like to simply know the identity of the man who stood up to a goddamn column of tanks during the LT Neiman Square protests of 1989. All of the books ever written and destroyed for controversial thought. What happens when we die? The Kennedy assassination. It's driven me nuts ever since I learned about it. There are just so many possibilities. I think it would be pretty cool to learn if Hitler actually killed himself or escaped to somewhere else. It would be that or what happened to Johnny Gorsh. I think it would be interesting to learn what happened to him. What the hell happened with the Yuba County 5? It's also known as the American Dyatlov Pass BTW. But yeah, so many weird things happened with that are completely unsolved. The location of the lost 1715 Spanish treasure fleet. I'd use the money to find more lost sea treasures. That or if the Holy Grail ever existed. I would like to find out what was before the Big Bang. Oak Island Mystery. There is whole TV show evolving around it on History Channel and mystery if there is buried treasure on it or not. Did Carol really feed her husband to the tigers? On a more serious note though, I would also really love to know what's the deal with the Toynbee tiles. Reading through this thread is really interesting. Growing up I got the impression that everything was solved or likely solved, and yet there are all these mysteries that no one knows the answers to. Things like these need to be talked about more. They're so fun to think about. Quite a few things. Who killed John Bennett? What happened to Malaysian Flight 370? What really happened to Jimmy Hoffa? What happened to Amelia Earhart? Do aliens exist? Who really ordered the hit on Malcolm X? Who actually killed Biggie and Tupac? And who is Becky with the good hair? The Max Headroom thing for sure. I believe there was a thread here on Reddit where some guy said he knew the people behind it, but it turned out he was mistaken. What exactly is causing those people to disappear in national parks, etc.? What's in Antarctica? Is Megalodon still alive deep down in the unexplored part of the ocean? What really happened to dinosaurs? Was COVID an experiment gone wrong or something released on purpose? For what it's worth, I just love hearing people rationalize their beliefs, and it's intriguing to me to hear different point of views. The lost city of Atlantis. Since I was 5 I've wondered if there was any truth behind it. The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. From London during the Industrial Revolution. The Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Dead serious about this. But it's more personal than global. I would absolutely love to know where the hell the lids from Tupperware go. Over the years, we have disposed of dozens of perfectly good containers because the lids simply vanish. Tokyo Airport, 1956. A man came into the airport with a weird looking passport, and in it said that he was from the United Kingdom of Tord, which he claimed was located at the border of France and Spain, which is today's Andorra. But this man claims it's the United Kingdom of Tord. The police take him away to a nearby hotel to guard him. They were awake all night in front of his room and went in morning to go check on the man, and he was nowhere to be seen. And the scariest part, all his documents also vanished. Might not seem that scary, but they were in a completely different place. I want to know where he came from and where he went. Probably what happened to Chris Kermers and Lizanne Faroon. Two girls went on a trip to Panama and they went on a hike and never came back. Later their bag was found and they had a digital camera. If you look through the pictures it starts off innocent enough, but as it gets darker they're clearly not having a good time. And then there's a ton of random night pictures that they assumingly were using the flash to try and find their way. They found the foot of one of them still in the boot, and they found a femur as well, but no one knows exactly what happened. Some rumors range from cannibalism to being eaten by wild animals. Reddit found the album from their camera. Is what we know as history really true? What are the major historical events that have been erased or hidden from us? The full story of what happened to everyone in the Dyatlov Pass incident. Where is the Ark of the Covenant Osa and what's in it? Alternatively, how do we read the Pictish stones? I'd love to know more about the Knights Templar and the Masons. What happened to the Malaysia flight that went missing? The princes in the tower. I've heard arguments that their uncle Richard III had them murdered, but on the other end of the spectrum would be Henry VI and his mommy. Henry VI revoked Titus Regius, which had declared the princes illegitimate. Henry VI and his mommy, because they are 100% a pair, were careful and crafty. If there was a snowball's chance in hell that either of those boys were alive, they would have done something else. Richard probably killed them, but it would be nice to know. Is Bob Lazar telling the truth? Did he actually work on a UFO? There was a murder and sexual assault of a young girl near my hometown before I was born. Christine Jessup, an innocent man. Her neighbor Guy Paul Moran was convicted of the crime basically because he was weird and the cops fixated on him. He was eventually exonerated, but her killer was never found. This was in Ontario, Canada. The truth about Diana's death. The P versus NP problem. The basic gist is that finding a solution could advance humanity by scores of margins. I want to know how Neanderthals, which are now believed to be more artistic and somewhat slightly more intelligent than us, and Denisovans, the short and stacked cousins of ours who were once pervasive in Asia, went extinct while we survived. Where Adolf Hitler's body was and what actually happened to him. Are the stories about the Vietnamese jungle apes? Where are they and how do they live? There was one where some people died in the snow camping with high amounts of radiation. Are aliens real? If so, what are the secrets of alien technology? Edit. Holy titite. This thread went into some deep discussion real duckin' quick. I wanted to find out what happened. Thank you to everyone who is debating. But that's why if I could go back, I would find it out. Because of it like this. Surprised no one has said it yet, but the Hinterkaifeck murders. Someone murdered a whole family with an axe in a small German town in 1922. Supposedly, the maid quit because she kept feeling uneasy at the house. Her replacement arrived just a few hours before the murders took place. The perpetrator also took care of the animals for several days after. History is written by victors. I'd like to know everything that was lost and burned. What really happened to Brittany Murphy? Did Mary cheat on Joseph and accidentally make a religion? Who killed Missy Bevers? It is the strangest case and seems like it should be solvable. But here we are years later with no arrest. My husband and I can't even agree on whether the person on video is a man or woman. The Sea People. They were a mysterious tribe that caused the downfall of dozens of sites on the Mediterranean in the course of 50-ish years, including Egypt in its prime. No one knows who they were or how they were advanced enough to do it. The Green Children of Woolpit. Were they real? A tall tale? WTF really caused the Bronze Age collapse? An unknown event or series of events led to the destabilization and downfall of nearly all the major civilizations of the Mediterranean. At least 4 major empires that had each stood for centuries fell within about 50 years. There is almost nothing in the written record and frustratingly scarce archaeological evidence about the cause of this collapse. There's theories, most involving invading peoples driven by drought or climate change or war, but we don't really know any details. One day there's a thriving, interconnected metropolitan civilization building monuments and discovering math and science, and the next there's ruined cities, starving populations and almost no written records for a century afterward. The Man from Taurid, the Bermuda Triangle, what's in the Vatican vaults, all the books from the Library of Alexandria. What happened to Amelia Earhart? Atlantis? How much about extraterrestrial life is actually known to humankind? Basically the extent of any clandestine knowledge by the world's governments of life on other planets. Whether any creatures that we have from mythology, the unicorn for example, were an actual animal that existed but just went extinct, or if there was a freak one-off mutation that gave the foundation to the myth, which is an equally interesting mystery, the ignition point of certain parts of mythology. I think it's fair to assume that dragon stories were all they've come from, or at least greatly helped along, by someone somehow coming across a dinosaur fossil. Assuming a unicorn was real at one point, It's interesting to consider why there won't be fossils. Presumably the horn wasn't of the right sort of material to survive the process.